You may not believe that crawlers are real, and you are free to look at this episode as a fun exercise in horror fiction. But I wonder if at the end of today, you'll be so sure about your convictions. I'm Shelby.
And I'm Kacie.
And this is Chill Seeker.
Okay, Shelby, those photos you had me look at last week have been haunting me, especially that first image that Hillbilly Willie had posted.
Yes.
Like, that is nuts. The other photo to me just kind of made me laugh, so that one didn't haunt me as much.
Throwing it back.
Yeah, throwing that back. But I need to know what you're going to tell me this week. Am I going to be sold on crawlers are real? Is it something else? What are we talking about?
Today, I have part 6 of my Mimic series. In our last 2 episodes, we covered the origin and nature of crawlers, looking at all the lore and the myths that surround them. Now, let's talk about where you might actually encounter one, if you're unlucky or lucky enough, depending on if you're like me and you want to see one.
Or if you're like me and you're terrified.
So, reports of crawler sightings have emerged from all around the world, but certain geographical hotspots, especially in the US, seem to be ground zero for these terrifying encounters. Across different states and environments, consistent patterns seem to emerge. Today, I'm bringing you my retellings of the most chilling, incredible encounters I could find. I want to warn you, this episode is going to be quite a bit more disturbing than anything that we've covered so far.
It gets worse?
It gets worse, yeah. Make sure that you're mentally prepared before listening to this. And again, I don't recommend listening to it when you're outside, especially in the woods and alone. And I want to remind you that this is part of a series. So if you haven't listened to the ones before this, go and listen right now. And this will all make so much more sense to you. Like, you're going to be a little lost if you haven't listened to everything else leading up to this. Let's start with a quote from the Paiute Indigenous people's oral tradition. If you hear a baby crying near the water at night, you must not go to it. That's not a baby. That's something else. Okay. Let's go.
On a terrifying note, like a baby crying, that has got to be the scariest thing ever. And I know you briefly touched on it in a previous episode.
Yes, I did.
But that to me has to be the creepiest mimic thing that we've talked about. Like, I'm sorry, but straight up evil.
Evil. No, seriously. And I did mention this before. Something from actually Philippines tradition. But yeah, this is totally different. This is Native American lore. And we're going to be covering a story today which might feature a baby crying that might not be a baby. So, Kacie, are you ready for some super scary stories?
I don't know that I'm ever quite ready, but I'm excited.
It's coming at you whether you want it or not.
Hey.
And that sounded terrible.
Yeah, that sounded pretty bad. But like in context, like where I am consenting to hearing this story, everybody.
Okay, so before we get started, I want to explain that throughout this episode and the next, I will be sharing some of the most compelling anecdotal stories that I have found of individuals encountering these creatures. These stories are all taken from Reddit, and while of course it is impossible to verify their veracity, I chose ones that I found to be particularly believable. I also did a little investigation into each account behind these stories to make sure that each person seemed like a real person and not someone who was just making up spooky or scary stories for clout. So if their story is included here, it's because I searched their profile and I didn't find anything suspicious to suggest they were making it up. So first up on our list of crawler territories are the thick forests of Appalachia. A huge number of sightings come from rural communities in places in or near the Appalachians like West Virginia, Kentucky, Tennessee, Virginia, North Carolina, and parts of Pennsylvania. These areas with their endless woods, deep hollows, and forgotten trails seem like the perfect breeding ground for something like a crawler. Let's talk a little bit about Appalachia because there is so much to say. And I know we did in our last episode just briefly with the whole cave deep dive, but there's more to say here. I mean, really, in the future, I will definitely be doing a full episode on Appalachian folklore because there's just so much paranormal going on here, like it will blow your mind. Anyway, for those who aren't familiar, the Appalachian Mountains are one of the oldest mountain ranges on Earth. Like insanely old. I mean prehistoric, mythic, ancient beyond comprehension. These mountains are older than the rings of Saturn, older than the Atlantic Ocean, literally older than boats. And I mean that. These mountains were already ancient when the first creatures ever crawled onto land.
Crawled.
Scientists estimate that this mountain range formed over 480 million years ago. Long before the Rockies or the Alps were even a whisper on the Earth's crust. The Appalachians were once towering giants, rivaling the Himalayas in height. But over eons, they've been worn down, carved by wind, water, and time, into the rounded ridges and deep, shadowy hollows we see today. Stretching from Alabama all the way into Canada, the Appalachian mountain range is big, but what really sets it apart is its strange energy. It's hard to explain unless you've been there, but people who have swear that you can just feel it. And I haven't, I totally want to go, so
I was
just a side note.
I'm surprised you haven't been, Shelby. Like, I feel like you've been everywhere. Like, maybe you and I need to go together.
Yes, it's on my list now. Honestly, I just recently started learning about how crazy the Appalachian mountain range really is and like everything that goes on here in terms of people encountering strange things and like the folklore. It's super interesting. So I definitely want to make a trip down there. And yeah, people who've been there say that the air just feels thick, like it's holding on to something. Whole communities live tucked into the folds of the land where cell service disappears and old stories never die. They just stop being told to outsiders. And from what I've heard, it can get pretty hills have eyes out here. Like Kacie, have you seen The Wonderful Whites of West Virginia?
No.
Okay, so that's a hilarious documentary. It's one of my favorites that I've ever seen. It's about a family that lives in West Virginia, right near the Appalachian Mountain Range. This family is just ridiculous. It's probably the whitest white trash you've ever seen in your life. So this is what I'm picturing when I think about like West Virginia, Appalachian. I mean, I know it's not the same everywhere, but it's just like a funny image I have in my mind because of that documentary. So if you haven't seen it, you should definitely watch it. Yeah. But anyway, this place has birthed countless legends. Not just of ghosts or witches, but of things that don't fit into the normal categories. Pale creatures that skitter across hollers at night. Voices that call to you from the trees. Lights in the sky, lights in the woods, whole missing time incidents, and skinwalker adjacent stories of shapeshifters or strange animals. There are whispers of stickmen, white things, and night folk. Some are rooted in Cherokee or Shawnee tradition. Others come from old settler superstitions, passed down like heirlooms. But they all have one thing in common. They warn you to not follow the voice that you hear into the trees.
I wonder what happened to the people who did follow the voice.
We'll never know, right? I mean, that's what I asked last time. Like, what happened to the people who did follow the voice?
Would you follow the voice just to see?
No.
Okay, just checking.
No.
Just checking, because sometimes you get a little too adventurous for me, and I'm like, Shelby, like, let's protect your well-being.
Like, I want to see a crawler, but like from a distance, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, I want to be driving and like see one on the side of the road because I'm comfortable in my car. If I hear a voice in the woods and it's like someone I know, but they're not around or there's no reason for them to be there, I'm 100% booking it back to the house and calling them on my phone like, hey,
yes.
Are you in the woods?
1,000%.
Exactly. Anyway, so maybe these ancient mountains, older than the North Star itself, hold secrets of things that science can't explain. But the mystery doesn't end at the tree line. Beneath the Appalachians lies a world just as vast and unknowable. A labyrinth of caves stretching across the region, silent and dark. This is home to one of the largest cave systems in the world, Mammoth Caves in Kentucky, which at over 420 miles of mapped passageways is the longest known cave system on Earth. And that's just what's been discovered. Hidden chambers and tunnels stretching beneath the forest floor like veins. The Appalachians are riddled with these caves, from the Lost Sea in Tennessee to the eerie caverns of Virginia and the uncharted shafts in West Virginia. These underground worlds seem to defy conclusive mapping. And as we know, where there are caves, there are stories. Caves are natural places of myth. It's in these places beneath the roots of the oldest mountains in the world where things might dwell that don't belong in the daylight. As we discussed last episode, a lot of people believe that there has to be some connection between crawler sightings and cave systems. Of course, that is just speculation for now. Next, I have a terrifying story to read to you about an encounter with an apparent crawler in the forests of Appalachia and in Tennessee in particular. This story was posted by user Angry Mama Bear 90, where the writer claims to be a husband using his wife's account to post about their experience in the crawler sightings subreddit. The writer describes how he originally posted it to the Bigfoot subreddit, but after doing more research, realized that what he encountered seemed to be much closer to a crawler. The writer describes a series of escalating incidents experienced by his family after moving to a house deep in the woods. They moved there a year prior to the creation of this post, and basically this is him documenting and sharing everything that he's experienced and his wife and his kids have experienced since they moved there a year before. And unlike in the previous crawler accounts I've covered, you'll notice that in this one we have a dark gray crawler rather than a pale crawler, which, I mean, it's up to us to decide if we think that this is part of the same species, some kind of subspecies. I mean, really, I have no idea, and I'm excited to see what you think, Kacie. And this crawler also possesses some very eerie qualities that will perhaps give us more insight into the mimicking phenomenon and nature of these creatures. If, of course, this account is true. Now, it's a bit long, so I've cut out certain parts, and I'm only going to review the things that I felt to be the most compelling and the most important. And boy, is this one worth it. It's titled, There's Something in the Woods. And here's how it starts. It was about a year after they moved in, and one night around 9 p.m., a big storm was rolling over the hills. Rain hammered the roof. The trees were thrashing in the wind. You know that sound when the world feels alive, but also a little bit eerie. The husband described it as actually a good night. He said he and his wife loved sitting together out on the porch and listening to the rain. He grew up in Oregon, where rain was part of life, and she grew up in Nevada, where rain was extremely rare. So they would sit together, talking and watching the storm pour down outside the porch. But that night was different. As they were sitting there, his wife suddenly stiffened and said, "Did you hear that?" He shook his head. "No, what did you hear?" She stared out into the dark and said, "I swear it sounded like a small child calling for help."
I already have chills.
He listened harder, but nothing. He reassured her, "No, I didn't hear anything." But just a few minutes later, she jolted again. There it is again, a child calling for help in the woods next to our house. And this time, she was sure. It wasn't just any voice. She said, "How could you not hear that? It is our son. I think he's out there and he got lost in the woods." That's when the fear really kicked in, because they both looked through the blinds and all of their children were asleep, lying on the couch, safe and sound.
What? Okay, but the husband wasn't hearing anything?
No, he never heard anything. She's just saying she's hearing this, and he's like thinking she might just be hearing things, hallucinating, I don't know. So he tries to calm her down, but she isn't letting it go. She stands up and says, "Wow, he's really crying for help. I need to go look for him." Now, his wife was 8 months pregnant at this point. And normally she was terrified of the woods. Like, she didn't even want to go out there during the day, and she didn't like to be there alone, and definitely not at night. And it was dark out when this is happening. And it's also a storm. And she's also 8 months pregnant. Like, she shouldn't be going out in the woods by herself, right?
Absolutely not.
But something was making her feel like she had to go.
Oh my God.
He grabbed her hand and said, "I've been listening intently, and there's absolutely nobody calling out for help. You need to stay here." Like, their son was right inside. They could both see him, so there's no way he was out in the woods.
That's so terrifying. Also, that it was only her hearing it. Like,
I know.
the spook factor has increased.
Right?
Yeah, because every other story, it's been multiple people hearing the same thing, or most of the stories, I should say.
Well, remember Girthquake again? Yeah, we're going to talk about that more, but it's crazy when people are together, but they hear totally different things. I know.
I totally forgot about the Girthquake story.
Yeah.
Okay, that is so right. Oh my God, the spook factor just keeps elevating and elevating.
So she protests and she's like, but what if there's a child out in the woods? I mean, she can't say it's their child, right? Because she can see him right there, but she's hearing this child crying and she's like, I have to go help them, right? Like, what if there's a kid out there lost and alone in a storm at night? But he tries to reason with her. He just says, first off, I would be able to hear them too if there was a kid out there. Secondly, there are no other kids around here for miles. Like, again, remember, they live in the middle of nowhere, deep in the forest. There's no neighbors, like nobody around, no houses. Like, there's no reason for a kid to ever be out there alone. So finally, she lets him lead her back inside, but he couldn't shake the feeling that something out there was calling for her, and only her. Again, this is sounding pretty familiar, right? Like the whole Girthquake story. It's so weird to me that the wife is hearing it, but he's not.
Right. I totally forgot about the Girthquake situation with his friend and how they were hearing completely different things. Like, oh my goodness. Like, also, the wife must have been in such a panic that it was only her hearing it and that the call was really trying to get her out there, and being very maternal, being 8 months pregnant with child, having children already. I can see why she was like, no, I need to go make sure this baby is okay.
Yeah. No, I feel like that would be me too, for sure. I mean, the whole situation is crazy. And just to recap for anybody who maybe it's been a little while since you listened to that episode. So basically, Girthquake was this Reddit poster who had this experience, shared this experience he had in Big Bend National Park with a mimic, and ended up being this crazy humanoid creature. But basically, he was walking down a trail at night and he hears his roommate calling for him. But then he hears his real roommate on the porch down at their house, and he realizes that it's not the roommate that's calling for him. And so he runs back to the house, but then he finds out that the roommate was hearing multiple voices, like almost like a group of hikers, and then he was hearing Girthquake. So the roommate heard Girthquake's voice. It's so funny. We're saying Girthquake over and over again as if it's normal, but obviously it's a ridiculous username. But anyway, so they both heard each other, right? Each other's voices, and neither of them had said anything the whole time. So again, just a really weird example of this kind of almost supernatural telepathy, right? It makes it feel like it's less of a physical experience where you're actually hearing just like a recording or a mimic just saying something, and it makes it feel like it's almost supernatural.
Oh,
right?
Hate it.
I know. Ooh. I know. And it's just so weird to me that two people could be experiencing completely different things when they're in the exact same place and should be hearing the same thing. So creepy. Yeah. And this time it's not in Texas where that last encounter was, but in Tennessee. So a few months later, it happened again. Just as dusk was falling, he heard the front door creak open. He got up immediately. They had autistic 6-year-old twins, and the door was supposed to be rigged so that the kids couldn't open it on their own.
Oh my God.
The only person it could have been was his wife. So he steps outside and he saw her walking away down their private road towards the woods. And confused, he calls out to her, "What are you doing?" And she turns, totally casual, and she said that she had been sitting on the back patio when she heard a baby crying in the woods.
Okay, and at this point, she's given birth to her baby, right? Because this is a few months later.
Yes, she's given birth to her baby. Yeah. And she would never normally leave the house without telling him either. Again, like, she doesn't like to go out into the woods by herself, and it's only them out there, so she really doesn't have a reason to just be leaving the house without telling him. She points out into the trees and said, "See, there it is again." But again, he couldn't hear a thing. Just thick, heavy silence. He tries to talk sense into her, saying the chances of a baby being out in the woods outside her house is slim. He even suggested she see a psychiatrist because he was starting to seriously question her mental health.
Understandable.
And he admits that he feels really bad about this later now that he's writing this, once he knows everything that was actually going on.
I mean, I don't blame him though. I mean, I have known people that have suffered from postpartum psychosis, where they are hearing voices. So I understand where he was coming from, but I'm so nervous to know how he becomes a believer in this.
I know, right? I mean, I totally get it too. Like, honestly, I would do the exact same thing. If somebody I was with, especially my partner, right, was hearing voices from the woods and there was nothing there and I couldn't hear anything, I would be extremely concerned and I would definitely want them to see a psychiatrist. So I think you totally did the right thing.
Totally. And in a sense, it would almost be scarier to be him in that situation. Like,
oh yeah, like you think your partner might be losing their mind?
Yeah, and they're
That's
hearing
really
a
terrifying.
baby crying in the woods, and then they're just wandering off into the woods when they have a newborn baby at home. Like,
right? Honestly, is there any worse horror story than your life partner, your husband or your wife going insane and losing their mind? Like, I would so much rather see a crawler than go through that. So
For sure.
I agree with you. As you pointed out, Kacie, she had just given birth to her daughter a month earlier. And somehow, it seems like something in the woods may have known that. There were smaller things too, piling up. Knocks on the walls at night.
Ooh.
Whispers just behind her ear, even when no one was there.
Hate it. Hate it.
Yeah. Once she said she heard him, the husband, his voice, calling her name, right behind her, clear as day.
I have so many chills.
He was in his recliner 20 feet away, so there's no way it could have been him. But you know where she was sitting? Right next to the patio door, which was open behind her. And the patio led out to their porch, which was raised off of the ground about 20 feet in the air. So nothing really could have been out there either, right? But it's just weird. And it all came to a terrifying climax one night about a year after they moved in. His niece was living with them as a live-in nanny. And they were coming back from the store when about a mile from the house he caught a glimpse of something. He said, "I saw two eyes reflecting in the headlights coming from a wide tree on the side of the road just ahead. The eyes were higher than a deer and the color was wrong. They just looked different." He squinted, trying to get a better look, but just as he did, the eyes were gone, as if they were never there. He joked to his niece. It was almost as if it had known I could see its eyes and moved. But anyway, probably just an animal, right?
Nope.
So when they got home, his 3-year-old son came tearing out of the house to greet them and, help him carry the groceries in, right? And so the husband stays back to help his niece unload the groceries. That's when their dog started growling, low and deep, the kind of growl that freezes your blood. He followed the dog's gaze across the street to the neighbor's property, and that's when he saw it. At first, it was just a shadow moving between the trees, huge and fast, moving on all fours.
Oh, God.
Then it stepped into the open and stood up onto 2 legs. He said it stood up and walked like a man, but it wasn't right. It was tall, too tall. And what chilled him to his core is the way it moved.
Oh, God.
He said it was like it was phasing in and out of reality as it moved.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh.
He said even though it was moving at an impossible speed, like way faster than any human could ever move, there was no sound. It was looking right at them.
Oh, hell no.
The hair stood up on the back of his neck as he realized it was stalking them.
Oh, my God.
He grabbed his son and screamed for his niece to get inside. But she didn't listen, not at first. She said she thought later that he was talking to the little boy, not her. And so she stayed outside, casually grabbing more bags from the car. And that's when he saw it again. Something gray, a blur, bolting out from behind the SUV. He said whatever this was, it cleared about 45 feet in a single jump.
Yo.
Right?
Oh,
crazy.
Oh no. Nah, I am out of there. I am never going back to that house.
Yeah, so it had been hiding behind the car, waiting for her. He yelled at her to come back, but she kept walking towards the car. She hadn't seen it at this point. And as she got close to the woods, though, she suddenly froze. She leaned forward, peering into the trees, and he asked, "What do you see?" And she turned and ran full speed back into the porch, repeating over and over, "Nope, nope, nope."
Yeah, nope. Nope is right. Nope is the correct response.
So inside, she was pale as a ghost. She said she had seen it, a figure hiding inside the tree. She described its eyes. They looked dull red at first, but as it got closer, they looked dead. And he asked her what she meant, and she said it looked like it was blind, like it had kind of gray, like somebody who has really bad cataracts when they're older. And even more chilling, she said the thing looked almost translucent, like a dark cloud. The next morning, they measured the tree limb she said it stood under, 9 feet tall.
Wow.
And the distance between its eyes 6 inches apart. Later, she confessed something even scarier, that she had felt compelled to go to it.
Oh.
Yeah. She said that she felt like it was communicating with her, somehow telepathically drawing her out into the open and towards it. And suddenly, all those strange moments clicked into place. He realized it can communicate telepathically, and this explains why everyone was hearing something that nobody else could hear.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, it has a playback-like communication. His wife hearing their son crying for help. Remember the first time that she heard a child crying in the woods? Yeah. Well, he realized that their son had recently fallen outside just before that and cried for help.
Oh.
The baby crying in the woods. Well, obviously his wife had just given birth and it sounded exactly like their baby. His wife, hearing him call her name, whisper in her ear. Well, of course, he'd called her name many times while they were living there. It must have heard them talking and had been using his voice to try to lure her outside. Okay, so the writer goes on to mention a sign he had seen in a neighboring, heavily forested area hung to a tree that says, "The Screamer." He had thought it was some kind of joke when he first moved there and saw it, but after all these experiences, he wonders if maybe there's something deeper there, and I have a picture of it that I'm putting in the YouTube video. Anyway, the writer does give updates to his story, and like I said, I didn't even cover all the incidents that he had there. Like, there are so many, and they're all absolutely terrifying. Like, he talks about how the niece has more experiences with it, and then eventually, like a week later after all this happens, I think a week or two, she decides to leave entirely, even though she was supposed to stay there the entire summer, but she leaves because she's just way too freaked out, and she had felt like it had been communicating with her even more. So that's a whole story in and of itself, and you can go read it if you want to. I have the source cited in our source list, but also you could just look up "There's Something in the Woods" on Reddit and you should be able to find it. But anyway, one weird thing that stuck out to me is that this creature seems like it wants the women in the family, right? Yeah, I mean, it kept calling to his wife and then the niece when she arrived, but it didn't really seem like he had any experiences with it. Like, he could never hear it calling for him. It was only for his wife, right? Isn't that weird?
That is.
And then the fact that his niece said she felt compelled to go to it. That part is absolutely terrifying. And clearly the same with his wife, right? I mean, she kept feeling like she had to go out to this voice, like the child in the woods, even though she knew her own son was sleeping inside. There's something there to that, right?
Totally.
So anyway, I want to jump down to the comment section of this post where someone else recounts that they have experienced the same thing. These dark gray, tall humanoid beings who mimic. This comment was made by user Synaptic, and it starts with them saying that they had experienced the exact same thing. Not to frighten you, they say, but there may be more than one. Or it's always played out to be more than one in my case. I haven't a clue what they are either. I live in Florida and this was on my old property surrounded by woods. There's many stories I can tell, but I was also being stalked. I've dealt with them for 13 years.
13 years?
Yeah. The first time it stared at them, they were just a kid. They didn't have the language for it then, but something in their gut just screamed that what they were looking at wasn't natural. Perched on a thick branch behind their mom's trailer, it waited. Dark, stretched out, almost blending into the tree's shadow. But not quite. What gave it away were the eyes. Deep yellow eyes, they said, almost glowing, and they locked eyes with it, unblinking. This was in Marystown, Florida, on an old patch of farmland their grandmother owned, surrounded by woods. Once it shows itself to people, those same people will always experience it from that point on, they explained. And they did. And something else interesting, they talk about how it seems like it liked to show itself to kids and almost like fake them out as if they knew that other people couldn't see it, right? So it'd show itself to a kid and then the kid would try to tell someone about it. And it seemed to like this. Like, it almost got a kick out of knowing that it was making people feel crazy or seem crazy, which is just an interesting aspect, right?
I am coming up with a theory in my head that explains all of this.
Oh my God, I'm so excited to hear it.
But I'm going to wait and see if it changes the more you tell me.
Okay. All right. Well, I can't wait. Okay. They described the creature in detail. Tall, lanky, dark gray to black, humanoid, but with a too long body that moved in jerky, unnatural ways. They're incredibly fast and remind me of a spider when they move, they said. Sometimes it would bang on the trailer walls. Sometimes it would drag its fingernails across the siding, slowly and deliberately, just outside the bedroom window. Does that remind you of anything? Perhaps our Wendigo encounter?
I was just going to say the Winnebago with the wiener dog.
And sometimes it would mimic. They mimic all kinds of noises and try to mimic people, they said. They can distort reality if you're in the woods and get you lost. And does that remind you of another encounter that we covered? Perhaps the Red River Gorge in Kentucky, where they feel like the time is just stretching out in front of them with this trail that they just can't seem to get down, that they've traveled 100 times before, right? But it's like this one time they just feel like they're not making any progress, even though they're walking and walking and walking. Isn't that weird? The time distortion?
Yeah, terrifying.
Yeah, and I mean, okay, of course, human perception is flawed, and I can totally see how, for example, it feels like it takes way longer to get home than it does to get out there. I mean, that's kind of a common experience. Or, it feels like it's longer going uphill than downhill, something like that. But I still feel like there might be something to this, because it's interesting that it comes up again and again in these experiences with these entities, right? Or creatures or whatever people are encountering.
Yes.
So this commenter talks about how there were rules on the property. Not official ones, but survival ones. For example, you didn't go out after dark. And if you had to, you ran fast. Ooh. Stuff would happen any time of day, they said, but the night was the worst. There were other strange things too. The electricity would go out. Lights would drain, power would cut. And whatever it was real enough to affect the world around them. To this day, they don't like talking about it. I know what I experienced, they said. I don't need people to believe me. But when they saw others online sharing similar stories, it hit something deep inside. It always catches my attention when there's a family like yours I can relate to. And although they've long since moved away from that Marystown property in Florida, they still feel something pulling them back, almost like they're compelled to go.
Shelby, that reminds me, did you ever watch the show Lost?
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember when it kind of got bad where they were like,
yes,
the island is calling us back. We have to go back.
Yeah.
Something is calling us back. That's what this is reminding me of. Where like all of us viewers are like, why the f would you go back? And they're like, oh, we have to go. Something is pulling us back.
It totally sounds like that. And it sounds a little ridiculous. I'm not going to lie. Like the idea of this calling them back. I mean, it's hard to believe. It's hard to imagine. But I have to point it out just because it's so interesting that they have this experience.
Totally.
And yeah, so they say, I'm still incredibly drawn to my old place and I have had strong feelings to go visit there. But they say they don't go, even though it's only 40 minutes away.
First of all, they didn't move far enough away. I would have left the state
right?
if it were me.
Seriously, like 40 minutes, like I feel like those things could get there in like a day, like not
Straight
far
up.
enough away.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, this commenter says they never did find out what it was, as I'm sure, anybody who experienced that, like, what are you going to do? Look it up? Like, I feel like a Google search, I mean, you could find the kind of stories like this, right? And so other people have obviously experienced the same thing, but you can't really put a good name to it. I mean, even Crawler doesn't really capture what the hell this thing is. But anyway, they have some advice for the family in Tennessee. Quote, the more attention you give to them, the more it will be drawn to you. Keep standing your ground and letting it know that's your place and it belongs in the woods. So, apparently our original poster is not alone in their family's experiences. It's interesting to me that these beings seem to have some kind of invisibility powers. They can show themselves to one person and then not to another. They can have themselves heard by one person and not to another. Very eerie, very strange, and terrifying. I mean, the idea of these dark humanoid beings that phase in and out of reality and move like spiders, or the pale crawler beings we've talked about so far. I mean, which do you find scarier, Kacie? Because I feel like they're both so freaky and I'm trying to imagine if they're related or not. Like, I don't know.
I think it's all evil spirits. That is my hot take on this.
Okay.
And okay, do you want to know why I think that?
Yes.
It wouldn't really explain the photos, but
okay.
I think it would explain that they communicate with children because children are like, it's just been studied, researched, all of that. that children are more connected to the spiritual realm.
Yes.
Like the younger you are, the more connected you are to the spirit world, if you're a believer in that.
Of course.
Which I am. So I could
just to make that clear, okay? If people don't know yet, okay?
Yes, totally. So both of my parents are pranic energy healers. And when they were going to these classes to learn the practice, they told me that negative energies, because, you know, everything is energy. We're energy. This chair I'm sitting on is energy.
Of course, that is not debated. That's scientific.
Yes,
so,
exactly.
Yes.
So everything is energy. But they were telling me that negative thought forms, which could go back to what you mentioned in a previous episode. Yes, exactly.
Yes.
That negative thought forms and egregors can take shape. So my mom told me about an experience she had where she was seeing this shape, this being, and she was able to look it up in her book, like, because they were currently studying it at the time. And the being that she was seeing represented addiction. And the being was trying to like pull her in, like into some type of addiction. So I'm very curious to ask my mom if she still has that book, and I'm gonna flip through it and see if I am able to find anything that resembles what people are describing as a crawler or skinwalker or Winnebago, you know, whatever it is. But I am very eager to get my hands on that book and see if it could be the negative thought form or entity that people are able to see with their eyes, because that to me would explain the telepathy of it, and that certain people can hear things that other people aren't hearing. To me, it's all very spiritual. Like, I believe every one of these stories. The only thing that I don't know would check out with my theory is the photographs. But I don't know, maybe you can photograph energy if it takes on a form. I have no clue. But
I mean, there are always those weird, you know, ghost photos floating around on the internet that people claim to be totally real. And again, it's like sometimes it's impossible to debunk them. So we don't know if they're real or fake, but you can't prove it's fake, right? And people apparently capture, you know, a person who wasn't there, right? I mean, that's pretty common. I've seen a lot of photos like that, and some of them are very terrifying. So maybe, right? I mean, maybe even if it's a spiritual being, you could potentially capture it. Or like I've said before, you know, in our last episode, I think that even if these beings are real and people are really seeing them, it doesn't mean that the photos are not fake. Like, somebody could be basing this photograph that they're faking, right? They're creating an image, they're photoshopping stuff. They could be basing that off of real descriptions that either they or somebody else, right? Someone on the internet have conjured up. Just like the Ray creepypasta story. Just because that story was fictional doesn't mean that the creature itself, or that, you know, whatever this is, entity, spirit, you know, who knows, doesn't mean that that's not a real thing that people have experienced in the past. Somebody could be taking inspiration from real stories, just like we looked all throughout folklore and found a lot of descriptions of these type of entities long before that creepypasta story came out, right?
Yes, totally.
But I really want you to get your hands on that book.
So do I, because I remember my parents like teaching me, like, if I feel like negative presence, like the protocol you do and how you could build like a shield around yourself. And like the thing you're supposed to say is like, oh, I direct this shield to protect me from negative thought forms, entities, and egregors. So
what is an egregor? You said that word and I don't know what it means.
So essentially, it's sort of synonymous with tulpa. It's like when a lot of people are thinking it, it becomes reality.
I like that thought. I mean, it's fascinating. It's terrifying, right? That I could be manifesting, for example, that I could be manifesting a crawler outside my window right now, right? I mean, like I said, my husband's out of town, Jesse's gone. So I'm here by myself in this house with all the windows and the forest outside in all directions. And I feel like tonight I'm going to be like, Have I manifested a crawler?
Okay, Shelby.
Like, I hate that.
This is the protocol. I want you to put salt in every corner of your house, okay?
Okay.
Do some
I'm gonna do it.
protective salt just in every corner.
I love that. Okay.
Yes.
It'll make me feel better at the very least,
Yes,
right?
exactly. Even if just mentally it makes you feel better, that's what we're going for. It's also kind of crazy because if you know me, you know that I was raised incredibly religious and very conservative. And now it's kind of funny how my family has done a complete 180, and my parents are very spiritual, very much in tune with the spiritual realm and energy. And kind of just shifted away from the typical church and religion and gone the spiritual realm. And it's so fascinating to me, and I love learning from them and hearing their experiences as well, because I have some of my own, as you know, Shelby, that we'll get into on a later episode. But
well, you guys have some collective experiences which really are absolutely insane. I mean, I know there's one we don't want to mention because we don't want to, step on any toes, upset any of your family members, but it was a lot of people in your family who had this collective haunting experience, which truly sounds terrifying. I mean, I know you went over it with me in detail, and I hope that maybe someday we can share it on here. I don't know, obviously that remains to be seen, but no matter what, it's absolutely fascinating and sounds like literally life altering.
Straight up terrifying.
Wow. Anyway, we'll definitely revisit your paranormal experiences whenever you can share sometime, because I would love to do an episode on just that, on your life experiences with the supernatural, because I know you have a lot and you're kind of sensitive in that way, in a way that I don't think I am quite as much, at least I haven't had as scary experiences as you had.
Well,
and I hope to keep it that way.
I hope you don't get any claws on your window tonight. Oh God.
Don't even say that.
Yeah, no, that's not going to happen.
Okay. Anyway, back to the episode. That was a fun little detour, but we're moving away from Appalachia in the south, and we're heading out into the Midwest. And now, when I say Midwest, I'm talking about that massive heartland region of the U.S. that covers 12 states. Ohio, Michigan, Indiana, Illinois, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Iowa, Missouri, North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, and Kansas. It's farmland, yes. I mean, a lot of farmland. But it's also dense forests, endless prairies, rusting industrial towns, and some of the most eerily quiet backroads you've ever driven down. There's something about a cornfield at midnight that feels almost more terrifying than a haunted house. Something about a lonely stretch of road with just your headlights and nothing else for miles that makes you feel like you might never make it back to civilization. And when it comes to crawler sightings, the Midwest shows up again and again. In one particularly chilling account, an eyewitness from rural Illinois recalled seeing a gaunt humanoid figure sprint across a remote road in front of her family's car one night, its elongated limbs and pale flesh flashing in the headlights. This report was documented in Crawlers, a conclusive casebook by Nathaniel Brislin. There is a conclusive casebook on crawlers, just so you know. Another notable encounter happened in 2014 on Carmel Road in Ohio, where a former Marine and his wife witnessed a 7-foot-tall, gray, slender creature crossing the road, an event so striking it actually made the local news. And next, we have Wisconsin. Because the next story I have for you, it happened around 3 a.m., way out in the forest, and it features a different kind of mimicking than we've ever seen before. She was staying with her husband on a camper on their friend's property. The dense forest enveloped them in darkness, surrounded by the vast woods of the Midwest. She hadn't been feeling well that evening and decided to lie down. Hours later, around 3 a.m., she woke abruptly, her body urging her outside. She bolted out of the camper and began vomiting near the window. My husband called out and asked if I was okay, she recounted. She managed to respond between bouts, assuring him she was fine. As the nausea subsided, she spat a few times, trying to rid herself of the lingering taste. Gross. I'm imagining times I've thrown up in the past, and I hate it. It's one of the worst things in the world.
The worst. I don't know anyone that enjoys it. Like, we've talked about it before, that we feel like nausea is one of the most uncomfortable feelings you could experience.
Yeah, like I would rather have like severe pain than nausea. Like, yeah, I'd rather have like my spider bite pain, than being nauseous for any length of time, because it's truly miserable. Mm-hmm. So anyway, she's out there throwing up, hating life, I'm sure. And then as she looks up, she saw it. There was a face about 3 feet away from me in the darkness.
3 feet? That's so close.
Frozen, she stared into its cold, hollow eyes. It stared back. She couldn't move, couldn't look away. In an attempt to understand what she was seeing, she slowly moved her head up and down, side to side. And get this.
What? Did it move its head with her?
Yes, it mimicked her every movement.
God damn it, I knew it.
Right? There we were in the darkness of the forest, bobbing up, down, back, forth, slowly leaning closer and closer to one another as we tried to figure each other out, she said. The face had a human-like shape, but the body, partially obscured behind their truck, appeared hunched and distorted. She couldn't discern its exact features, but its presence was undeniable. I stared straight into its cold, hollow eyes. I couldn't look away in fear of what would happen if I did, and it stared back at me, almost as if it didn't know what I was either. Finally, summoning her voice, she called out, "Babe." "Yeah?" her husband responded. "There's something out here," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "What?" he asked. "I don't know. I'm not sure. But I'm afraid to move. It's watching me," she said. He opens the camper door and looks out into the darkness. "Where?" he asked, unable to see what she was seeing. "It's right in front of me, just watching," she says, bewildered that he couldn't see it. He grabbed a flashlight and shined it in front of her as she looked up at him. But when she looked back, it was gone. There was nothing there. "I never saw it leave. I kept its cold, dead gaze the whole time. How could it not be there?" She remains confused by the encounter. "I know it was there. I saw it. It wasn't a dream, and I know I wasn't hallucinating." In response to comments, she clarifies, "I don't drink and I don't do drugs. I was not inebriated." So apparently she was sick from food poisoning or some kind of flu, not from drinking,
shrooms.
which is what I initially thought, right? Yeah, or shrooms. She went on to describe the figure further. "I couldn't tell how tall it was, because from what I could see, it looked hunched over and disfigured. I don't think it had any fur. It was pale in color, but again, it was dark, so I'm not sure what color it was. It had big, black, soulless eyes, like looking straight into a void. It had sharp, jagged teeth, and I don't remember a nose at all. Teeth.
This is the first time we're hearing about teeth.
Teeth come up in a lot of different encounters.
Okay.
They do, yeah. I mean, people randomly see these things. I mean, I'll definitely emphasize this later in the series, but I chose like the most compelling, detailed stories to share, but honestly it was difficult because there were so many good ones. And even beyond like the more detailed stories, there were so many stories of just like people seeing these things on the side of the road, you know, on a walk, like brief encounters that are just as scary as anything else. But you know, I couldn't include all of them. So often people do see sharp teeth, either a gaping mouth where it just looks black, or sharp teeth.
Oh God, I don't know what's worse.
Yeah. I don't know what's worse either. Like the gaping mouth feels like it's going to suck your soul,
right,
but the sharp teeth, like it's literally going to eat you.
Yeah.
Like what's worse?
Neither are great.
I know. I feel like I'd rather it eat me than take my soul though.
And we all know that I'm totally fine with being cannibalized. So.
You've made that clear, right? You would probably, it sounds like you'd like kill yourself, sacrifice yourself to save like one bunny is like the vibe I've been getting.
I mean, honestly, it wouldn't be a bad way to go out, in my opinion.
So funny. Even though bunnies don't even eat meat, but you know what?
Yeah,
it's fine.
Bunnies are like me. We stick to plants.
All right, so the vision of that thing mimicking her every movement was just so terrifying and amazing to me. Like it literally seemed like something out of a scene of a movie. But I also want to point out that her husband didn't see it. So I don't think we can entirely discount the idea that she was having some kind of waking dream or hallucination, or possibly even seeing a reflection. I mean, she did mention that the truck was there, right? And this thing was supposedly behind the truck. But I mean, what if she was seeing herself in the window? I mean, I don't know. She had just woken up.
That's a stretch.
But the husband didn't see it, so where did it go? Do you think it was like The Last Creatures where it can just show itself to whoever it wants? But then, I mean, she looked and it was gone too. So, I mean, I don't know, right?
I mean, also these things move at a rapid speed. So it's possible that it was like, oh shit, a light's about to be shown on me. I'm dipping.
I mean, that's totally possible, right? I mean, if any of this is possible, that's possible. But this one isn't super credible, right? I mean, you know, it's only her. There's only the one witness. It's not as credible as like the one where the whole family's experiencing it. But I still thought it was just fun to share because of that crazy visual of like both of them going at the same time, back and forth, up and down, right? It just it's so cool. Anyway, we're moving away from the Midwest now and heading out to the true West, to the Pacific Northwest, Washington, Oregon, British Columbia, and California, which have also earned a surprising reputation for crawler sightings. Central and Northern California in particular have produced clusters of reports, both human sightings and strange camera footage. The most famous case here, of course, is the Fresno night crawlers. Have you heard of that?
Never. I have it pulled up right now, and okay, what even is this? It's like...
It's weird.
Kind of like a walking tent. Like, it sort of looks like a tent that's been split in half, and it's just kind of like zooming about this yard.
Bizarre. So yeah, if you're watching the YouTube video, I have it playing right now so you can see. The story behind this is that in 2007, a Fresno homeowner known only as Jose captured surveillance footage eerily like a pair of walking pants, or as you said, a tent split in half. A second video allegedly captured in Yosemite National Park in 2011 showed similar beings, and that will be showing right now too. These seem way more benevolent, like benign, than the crawlers. The crawlers seem dark as f***, like based on all the descriptions, and this doesn't really fit for me, but because it is called the Fresno Night Crawlers is the name of this video, right, as it became famous, I had to include it because it's like, it's always mentioned when you look up stuff about crawlers, even though I feel like this is definitely a different phenomenon than the actual crawlers that we're talking about for the series. Like, these look cute compared to the ones that we're talking about.
Right, they do. Yeah, like
Totally.
I probably want to befriend these ones.
Beyond the night crawlers of this video, hikers in California's Sierra Nevada foothills and redwood forests have reported more typical crawler sightings. Tall skeletal figures lurking just beyond the tree line, watching them. One of the sightings I found from this area comes from a guy who used to camp a lot in the El Dorado National Forest out in California. And this story was shared by user Quentin Stark. So he and his friends had a favorite spot along Sopiago Springs where they'd camp all the time. One weekend they decided to rough it, that's something just boys do for fun. Like, I don't have the desire, right? But they just like to see if they can survive, you know, and like act like they're like big mountain men.
I've roughed it before, and it's not fun,
right? Like,
for me.
I literally was reading this story to my husband, and I was telling him like, oh my God, this sounds awful. Why would you ever do this? And he's like, oh, that sounds like so much fun. Like, I've totally done that before. Like, I would love to do that right now. Like, you're insane. Why are men like this? But you know what? Good for them. They can just go rough it without me, right?
Yes.
Anyway, so they bring only some MREs, guns, a basic shelter, and a plan to forage whatever else they could find. So the MREs were kind of like backup, you know, like they're gonna hopefully just eat what they find off the land, right?
Right.
So the first night was normal enough. They caught crawdads, they cooked a squirrel, and drank a few beers, no problem. I know how you love cooking and eating squirrels, right?
Oh, you should have seen the face I made when you said that. I was like, oh my God, that poor squirrel. So, like, one of the worst days ever was when Olive and Ringo, my two miniature dachshunds, I was like, oh, they're playing outside. And then I was like, what toy are they playing with? And then I was like, oh my God, they're murdering a baby squirrel. And the worst part was that, like, Ringo did most of the work, but Olive went in for the kill shot, and that broke my heart. But then I'm like, okay, they're dogs. They were born to hunt badgers.
Born to kill.
Like, yeah. And I feel like I was born to heal, not kill.
Aw, that's very sweet. You're just like too precious for this earth, honestly. Yeah, no, but like seriously.
Don't tell that to the crawlers.
Yeah, let's get back to the crawlers and count me out of eating a squirrel. Like, no, thank you.
Yeah, I'm good on that.
So anyway, drink some beers and we're having just like a great time. Like as I assume guys out in the woods eating a squirrel would have. I don't know. Anyway, the second day, something felt off. The forest...
Maybe because they got rabies.
Honestly, I'd be worried about whatever diseases would be in a squirrel for sure. But anyway,
yeah.
The second day, something was off. The forest was dead silent. Not the normal silence you'd get when a big predator is around, because they knew this. Like I told you, they camped all the time. Like this guy really knew his way around the forest, especially this area. They said it felt like something else, like something was wrong. He said it felt like something was watching you. That night, his friends wandered around 200 yards up the stream, leaving him alone in the camp with just a rifle. They were on a mission to get water so they could purify whatever, and so he stayed back in camp because you don't want to leave the camp totally alone. But that's when he started hearing faint voices coming from the woods. Low, indistinct sounds. Just far enough away to make your skin crawl. As he stared out into the dark, he suddenly caught a glimpse of something moving about 50 yards out. He snapped his rifle to his shoulder, looking through the scope, and what he saw made his blood run cold. It looked human, he said, but it was on all fours, and its arms seemed a lot longer than they should have been. It moved low to the ground, almost like an ape, but something about the way it moved was all wrong. And it vanished deeper into the woods. And then the sound started again, faint rustling, snapping twigs, always circling him just outside the firelight. When his friends finally came back, they were spooked too. They'd been hearing the same whispers and movements in the trees out where they were.
Oh.
Yeah, that night, all of them stayed awake with a roaring fire and all of their guns in hand, just sitting there and waiting for something to come back, right?
I wonder what would happen if you try to shoot a crawler, though.
Well, we're gonna find out.
Oh! Someone tries to pew-pew a crawler?
Someone tries to pew-pew a crawler. They do. Yeah. We'll see how it goes for them. Not in this story, but in another one. Anyway, the next day they packed up and just got the hell out of there at morning, right? First light, like they were done. And I obviously would do the same. I mean, I wouldn't be out there in the first place in the way that they wanted to be, but more power to them that they just decided to get out, because later some people don't. So we'll see. So anyway, they never camped at that spot again, obviously. And this is super creepy, but I found an even scarier encounter that takes place. Let's just say a little too close to home for me. It happened deep in Capitol Forest. Yeah, this one is really close. Okay, so Kacie, you were at my wedding. We were in the woods, right? This is 20 minutes from where I got married.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Whew.
Terrifying.
You probably would have wanted to get married where this took place had you known this ahead of time.
I mean, that's not how I would have picked it, but like I also wouldn't have been upset about it. Like I would have been down, right?
Just a crawler spectating at your
although
wedding.
I wouldn't camp in this area, like where this happened. I wouldn't want to actually go camp. Like no way. I'm not campy. See, I'm okay like seeing a crawler from my car, but I don't want to like be out in the woods by myself in a tent with one around. Like no thank you.
No.
So this is about a 3-hour drive away from where I'm living now, which is also on the West Coast, but just up north. So this encounter took place in September 2016. The poster and his friends had gone out in the forest to film a YouTube video showcasing his blacksmithing skills. These are boy adventures, right?
Yes.
But anyway, when I was reading this story, I noticed something about the guy telling it. And I think we all know at least one guy like this. Like I feel like I know many. He knows every little detail about his passion, whether it's cars or football or construction or like just whatever it is. In this guy's instance, it's the outdoors and the military and all the equipment that goes along with it. So he's ex-military and he can perfectly describe the camp setup and all the specs of like all the equipment they have, the lights, the camera, the guns, the tent, etc. Like he literally describes it in extreme detail, and I'm not going to repeat it here. So I just kind of wanted to give you a recap of like what this guy is like and how he tells the story, so you have an idea without me having to really go into the details. He's very precise in his language. So take from that what you will, but the story is very long and I'm just going to summarize the parts I felt most important and quote from it here and there. So for this blacksmithing video, they picked a remote clearing about 8 miles in, secluded, perfect for filming without picking up any road noise. They brought a tent, a few lanterns, a rifle, and a shotgun for safety, and everything seemed perfectly normal, at least at first. That night, after setting up camp, something strange happened. The witness remembered hearing an odd bird call while setting up, something that didn't sound like any bird he knew. And does this remind you of something, Kacie? This happened again in the Red River Gorge story, right?
Yes.
The bird call that doesn't sound right. Like that comes up again and again, and it's just weird. Mm-hmm. So he said it didn't sound like any bird he knew, so obviously strange, but like, you know, what are you gonna do? Quit camping because you hear a weird noise? Like, no. So they continue setting up camp, they just brush it off, but he mentally noted it because he said, anything odd, we make a mental note of it, referring to being ex-military. They finished dinner and went to sleep, but around 2:50 a.m., the witness woke up to something sniffing his head from outside the tent. Yeah. He heard it huff, 3 long breaths, loud and deliberate. Frozen, he grabbed his AR-15 and tried to wake his friend, but he wouldn't budge. He had taken an edible earlier and was completely out. That would be you.
Vibes.
Yeah.
Yeah, straight up.
The woods had gone utterly silent. No bugs, no birds, no wind, just stillness. He sat there, wide awake with his rifle across his chest, just waiting for something, anything to make a move. Eventually, the night passed without further incident, but he couldn't shake the feeling of something being just outside the tent, breathing into the nylon. The next day, after inviting a couple more friends from the nearby city of Tacoma to join them at the camp, the group spent the evening eating spaghetti and playing cards around the fire. It was supposed to be a fun night, but just after midnight, everything changed.
Was it because the spaghetti was actually a creepypasta?
That was good.
Thank you.
So first, the witness heard rustling in the ferns below the campsite. Then, a small bell he'd set up on a tripwire fell with a soft ting, like something had brushed it at waist height. And again, this guy set up tripwires with bells. I told you he's not just your average camper. Like, he comes prepared even if he doesn't really know what it's for, right? Like, I mean, I've never done that. I would never do that. So this guy is his own type of person out in the outdoors.
I have definitely met this type of person before, and it's very intense, but also kind of fast, like impressive and fascinating, and like, okay, they're who I would call when the apocalypse hits.
They know what they're doing. Yeah, exactly. No, I think it's fun. So something hits the tripwire. He tries to stay calm. He thinks like it's probably a deer. I mean, in Washington, we have deer everywhere here. I see them all the time, literally out my bedroom window. Like, they're just around.
I'm so jealous. I love
so
deer. Deer is my spirit animal. I love them so much.
Yeah, they're very sweet. So he thinks it's probably just like something harmless, just a deer in the middle of the night, right? I mean, what are the chances it's something terrible? And even if it was like a bear, mountain lion, I mean, at least they have guns, right? So he starts looking around, trying to see what this could possibly be over in the direction of the tripwire. And then he saw it. I am horrified by what I spotted next. A long, white as marble, with no hair and black nails, hand pops up through the ferns no less than 20 feet away. It is a strange position. It looks like it's connected to someone crawling around in the undergrowth. He wasn't the only one who saw it. His friend Jay froze, locked into the same spot. Then another arm came through, and then the head. Quote, the head emerges. A big, slightly elongated jaw or pseudo snout, now exposing a white face and broad, muscled chest. This thing was ripped. I had no issues believing this thing could rip one of us apart. Looking back at it now, it reminded me of the white orc from The Hobbit, but more feral looking. Kacie, have you seen The Hobbit?
Wow. No, but I've seen photos.
Okay, well, I have a white orc photo that is going to be in the YouTube video right now, because for anyone watching, like, this image absolutely terrifies me, because the orc is so scary looking. Like, the white orc specifically is so freaky. And then to think of something that's more feral, like just seeing this in the middle of the night camping, I could not. Like, this makes me never want to camp again.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good.
So good. So anyway, he described it as at least 7 feet tall, with arms over 4 feet long, crawling low through the underbrush, somehow utterly silent until it was practically in their camp. As the creature rose up, both the witness and his friends raised their weapons. But while his friend whispered, "Wait," the witness didn't hesitate. I shot 2 rounds into its chest.
Oh.
Yeah. You were wondering what would happen, right?
Yes, very much so.
And just like that, it disappeared. No scream, no thrashing, nothing.
Yep, because it's an energy form.
Yeah, so the witness grabbed his giant flashlight and tore down the ravine, chasing after the creature, which is insane.
Ballsy.
But I mean, he also shot it 2 times in the chest, so I guess he just wants to see, what happened. But you'll never believe what he finds.
Oh my God. What?
And I'll be telling you about it in our next episode, part 7 of the Mimic series, the final episode.
Shelby, why would you do me like this? I need to know.
You're gonna know. You're gonna find out soon. Okay, I promise. And it'll be worth it. Because we have some other stories too that are like, oh my God, there's one from Australia that like haunts me every night, okay?
I mean, and Australia is just home to the creepiest shit.
There are a lot of crawler sightings in Australia. But anyway, I want to hear from you. Would you rather encounter a skinwalker, a wendigo, or a crawler? Let us know in the comments and tell us which crazy legend or creature I should cover next, because we're definitely going to do more, including the chupacabra, obviously, right? Maybe Bigfoot. I don't know. Yes. I definitely want to cover more of this stuff because it's so fun. Those are both way less scary than the crawlers, so I feel like that will be a lighthearted episode, but definitely tell me if there's something you think I should cover that I haven't talked about yet. And please subscribe to our channel on YouTube. Like we're at like 171 subscribers right now, I think. And I'm so excited every time a new person subscribes. It just like makes me so happy because obviously we're just starting out and like every person counts, you know? I need a reason to justify spending like 100 hours researching all of these episodes and writing the scripts and presenting them and editing it. Like it's so much work. And so for even just like one person to be into it, it just makes it all worth it, right?
Yes.
Please subscribe. Please like it. Leave a comment. Tell us, you know, as suggested, tell us what you thought of this episode, what you'd want to hear more of, like any critiques too. You know, we'll take criticism. So please do that. And also leave a review for us if you're listening on Apple or Spotify. And yeah, it means the world to us to help us get our episodes out there. So thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Keep seeking chills, and we'll see you in our next episode where I tell you the conclusion to this crawler story and share with you some other absolutely harrowing ones before we end our series. Bye.